What about a longer duration eruption such as Fagradalsfjall's 2021 eruption? Although this is an educated guess, I deem the probability of either a large volume eruption, which I will define as erupting more than 100 million cubic meters of lava, or long duration eruption, which I will define as a 4-month or longer eruption, to be fairly low. But what I just said will only likely remain true if eruptions on the Reykjanes Peninsula remain confined to the Fagradalsfjall and the eastern half of the Reykjanes volcano. My opinion is that the first near-surface intrusion, aka shallower than 2 km depth after several hundred years of inactivity, whether or not it leads to an eruption, will involve the largest volume of magma during a broader active period. We saw this occur when 150 million cubic meters erupted out of Fagradalsfjall in 2021, and on November 10 of 2023 when 120 million cubic meters of magma nearly erupted onto the surface at Reykjanes. My point is that the first near-surface intrusion of an existing Reykjanes Peninsula volcano can pull the largest amount of still solidifying magma from existing fairly deep magma chambers. Once subsequent eruptions occur, the amount of magma which can be pulled from these chambers decreases. However, this suggests that if an eruption was to occur in the western half of the Reykjanes volcano, or an eruption in the Krasuvik or Brennisteinsfjall volcanoes, that we might witness such a long-term and large eruption. Eruptive periods. Historically, how widespread are Iceland's periods of increased activity when they occur? How long do they last? Looking purely at Iceland's historical records and for volcanoes which are primarily groups of fissures, 6 such periods of increased activity occurred. These periods do not occur at stratovolcanoes or complexes with large calderas in Iceland, and as a general rule of thumb affect between a 15 and 70 km long stretch of land where increased volcanic activity can occur. The median length of time these last is 16 years, but have historically lasted as long as 30 years. However, once an increased activity period ends, a lesser increased activity period might continue for as much as another 100 to 400 years, sometimes leading to another eventual notable increase in the rate of eruptions. Could the intrusion change direction? Is there concern for this intrusion finding another path to erupt, such as west toward Eldvorp or straight up? There is a concern that this could happen. There may reach a point where the path of least resistance for magma is no longer towards the east of the primary Reykjanes volcano's magma chamber, potentially leading magma to the surface in a different direction. Have there been any changes in the intrusion itself recently? Not really. Magma intruding into this chamber has remained at a fairly constant amount. Any chance of Plinian-type eruptions from this system or a caldera-forming event? Thankfully not, unless magma move close to the surface further west on the Reykjanes Peninsula, but there is no chance of a caldera-forming eruption, although an offshore explosive Surtsean eruption remains possible. Is it only me, or did the latest eruptions all start in the night or very early in the morning? This is true but is misleading, as the sheer shortness of sunlight due to the location and time of the year Grindavik is in means it has been dark between 16 and 21 hours each day during the last 3 months. The odds that all 3 eruptions began during a time it was dark was thus fairly high, at 44.8%. What's the chance that there will be more eruptions after this one? And which VEI level? More eruptions are almost certain to occur at a fairly regular interval, although I do not know how long this will repeat for. Such eruptions, unless they occur in the ocean, will most likely all have VACE of 0. As a final note, here is the updated hazard zone map for the Reykjanes volcano on February 9.